Parasite is the movie of the year. Will the Oscars agree? That is the headline on this Thursday's Movie News. Parasite is obviously just hit the theatres in the US, John. It's been out in Korea for a few months now. We haven't yet got it. We did do a trailer reaction for it. Very intriguing film.
Yeah.
What I took from it was, what I always take from a lot of trailers is the sounds and obviously visuals that were in there, John. It was quite a confusing, for me, trailer. Didn't quite get what was going on, but I think that's probably, I've read a lot of people commenting on this film's release that you are better going into this type of film, like most Korean films, with sort of a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to get into a film like this, because Korean films are like that on the whole, where they can be quite absurd at times, quite confusing. But I think getting in with a sort of no perception or expectation is probably the best way. In this case, the headline is saying, will the Oscars agree that this is the movie of the year now? International film, a foreign film, I would probably have to wait until I see the film. But there's a lot of buzz about it, John, so what's your thoughts on this?
Well, Stephen, in terms of it being recognised at the Oscars as perhaps the movie of the year, do I think it will be nominated and win in the Best Picture category? Absolutely no chance. I do not believe that for a moment. I think it will probably, you'll see the likes of Joker, if they can be bothered to get up off their arses, the critics that are not even the critics, the members of the Academy.
Yeah.
Because there's been notable stories coming out that they are not going to watch this movie. For whatever reason, just excuses galore. So if they go out and watch that, I think we'll see the likes of the Joker, the Irishman and whatnot popping up in the Best Picture category. Yeah. In terms of this, I think this is probably the clear favourite for Best Foreign Picture. Because I've looked at the foreign picture movies for 2019, and certainly you look at the list, I've not seen any of them, Stephen, so I'm going to come across as being...
You're talking with great knowledge here then.
Yeah, I'm going to come across as being absolutely terrible, but what I traditionally do in a year is I would watch the nominations coming in for the Oscars, and then if I can then get my hands on...
You did that last year,
Yeah, I
didn't
did
you?
that last year, and I did it in most years prior to that as well, watching the likes of The Innocents and whatnot. I go off and I watch the most noteworthy foreign language movies that have been nominated for the Academy Awards of that year, and then I can then base it on that, essentially, when you've seen the movie.
The Palme d'Or, John.
The Palme d'Or is a very distinguished, obviously, award at the Cannes Film Festival, so if a movie is winning that would usually tell you, in terms of filmmaking, the process at the very least, it is a very impressively crafted movie. And certainly the director, Stephen Bong Joon-ho, I hope I've said that right, he is... We listened to the article first and foremost from The Ringer. Yep. Two chaps, I think one was from Korea, and he says that he is probably the leading filmmaker in Korea now, and that he seems to be able to balance the eclectic sort of themes that go on underneath the surface. But with that, he also gives us a great popcorn flicks or fare, where you can go in, you can consume it, and it seems to target a wide range of demographics from different markets. It can connect with the Americas, the Europe, and obviously in Southeast Asia and Asia in general. But at the same time, as I did say, he has some great things going on underneath the surface, and there is intelligence to the storytelling. So I got that from the trailer. I thought the trailer was very cool, and its filmmaking process, just the visuals.
Yeah, exactly, John. And how we came about that trailer was actually one of our subscribers recommended we watch the trailer and do a reaction on it, and it was one of those trailers we've done quite a few hundred trailer reactions in our time, and it was one of those trailers that stood out to me. I kind of remember, I'm paraphrasing here, but halfway through the trailer the tone kind of changes in the film. And I think there's actually a title comes up, one of the credits comes up saying something along the lines of paraphrase here, something, what you expect from this film, don't expect, or something. I can't remember, but it's basically telling you the tone in this film's about to change.
And subverts your expectations, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it did say. And that was one of the things I took from it. You're right, John, the sounds and everything as well. It's one of the things I always notice in trailers, and I think it's very important in trailers, especially that film, The Lighthouse. It's one of the things I picked up on was all the little sounds. This is like Us, the film Us, I think.
It had string elements, but it also had a great Oriental soundtrack, or theme, what would you call it? God damn. You know what I mean? The actual score. That's
the score, yeah.
Yeah, I was wanting to say composing, I don't know why. But yeah, it had a great Oriental feel. Because I seem to recall when we reacted, Stephen, I compared it to, I don't know why, but Isle of Dogs, the Wes Anderson movie, obviously stop motion movie, which had an amazing little score. Actually got nominated at the Oscars, I think, for its score. And it was just because it was Oriental vibes going on within Asian.
If the tone hadn't changed halfway through that trailer, I think you'll probably agree with me here, John. There was a lot of
seen something at the corner of my eye.
There was a lot of light humour, as I recall from that first half of the trailer, and I didn't expect that. I thought it was very light-hearted. A few wee jokes in there aside. If that tone didn't change halfway through, I probably would begin in with expectations. I'm glad it did change because it left me a bit confused on what kind of genre we were watching.
Well, Stephen, they do say that it is, and in fact in that conversation, that it is very drama-driven, that it has got thriller and mystery elements going on within. And obviously it's focusing on the class disparity, if you like, in Seoul, I think it's set. You have this very rich upper-class crust, if you like, in this city, and then you have a really impoverished underbelly. And this family, the movie's fixating on, the protagonists of the story, if you like, they are very much impoverished, poor, they're in the underbelly of Seoul, and they start infiltrating this richer family, taking roles. I think one of the young lad in the family becomes, I think, a maths teacher or the art teacher or something. I'm heavily borrowing on memory of the trailer here. And they just start one by one, starting to make their way into this richer family. And I don't know if it's a case of them replacing them and making it look seamless. I don't think you could do that. But there's certainly drama vibes in there. And it gave me great vibes off of the trailer, just the way the storytelling's playing out, the way, as you did say, that shift in tone, the visuals, the score, everything about it was very, very cool. From what I've heard about the director, I can't sit and say I know a great deal about him, but it really does give me sort of Ari Aster, you said Jordan Peele, Christopher Nolan vibes from the Western world, where they do subvert expectations. It's quite cerebral in the storytelling. On the surface, you have great popcorn flicks like Inception and stuff like that, which we've seen from Nolan, perhaps Hereditary from Ari Aster, and then Peele, you've obviously only got 2 movies. You've got Us and Get Out. They have that element to them where you can draw in audience members who perhaps would not be inclined to go and watch an art house movie usually, but then they start subverting your expectations, going deeper with the exploration of themes, and there's just great cerebral storytelling within there, and it's sometimes slow burn with Ari Aster, and I love that. So certainly I do like to watch foreign language movies, have done for years upon years, and I will give this a watch because it's getting widespread.
I was going to say, John, obviously your tradition is to watch as many of these ones that are going to be nominated in time for the Academy Awards. In this case, you're not going to have a choice because
I'm not going to see it.
We will not get to see this until second week of February. So
my birthday.
So there you are. I don't know what kind of sort of overall release it's going to get over here either, how it's going to be distributed, whether or not it's going to be limited or if it's going to be...
Well, that would probably be determined. When is the BAFTAs?
They're normally round about
March, I think. February. So if they're pushing for a BAFTAs nomination, then they may give it a decent release over here. I'd have to check that when the BAFTAs drop. I know it's New Year because it's different schedules for the award season for obviously the United States and here. And that's why we see movies like Jojo Rabbit being delayed to January, because they like to get them in the spheres of everybody.
Well, John, funnily enough, that's what we're going to talk about next. Jojo Rabbit is anything but a typical World War II movie. Now, this isn't obviously based on the sort of footage we've already seen with Taika Waititi as a spoof version of Adolf Hitler, how you want to call him.
Adolf.
I call him a git, but with a moustache, funny moustache. But the actual film itself, I think that first trailer was just full of silliness, and I think it rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way who don't get satire. Certainly here in the UK, I think we get it more. That's what I took from the first trailer. Second trailer, John, was a little bit more...
it was more
character-based, more emotional, and we got to see the sort of ins and outs and the perspective of the kids, the children in this... primarily obviously Jojo Betzler, I think his name is.
Jojo Betzler, yes.
Who's a 10-year-old boy. Obviously his imaginary friend is obviously Hitler. He's one of these young Nazis in training. I think they're called Hitler Youth.
Yes.
And his mum, Rosie, who's played by Scarlett Johansson, is hiding a Jewish teenage girl played by Thomasin Mackenzie in their home, and basically this friendship between the two kids is the sort of main focus on the film, John. So I think this article here is really just sort of homing in on what the film is mostly about. The sort of spoof stuff that we saw in that first trailer, especially with the director, and I can't remember his name, the one who was in 3 Billboards.
Sam Rockwell.
Rockwell. Were more sort of caricatures of the Nazi regime. I think from the second trailer, John, we got a better picture of where the film was going, and this article just sort of hits home what the film is all about. I didn't actually know it was getting delayed till next year, actually.
Yeah, sadly it is, yeah.
Yeah, so what's your take on this? What's your take on the whole perception of the film when it was first introduced with that first trailer, John, to the second trailer, and obviously what we're getting in this article as well?
Well, Stephen, I don't think there's been much change from the idiots that just don't understand satire from the first trailer to the second trailer.
Yeah.
They're still quite adamant that it's inflammatory, and it's obviously they're not going to watch it, and they think it's wrong to paint Hitler in this jovial manner, if you like. They're dead wrong. If anyone is getting absolutely destroyed by satire and painted in a ridiculous manner, it should be the Nazis. We've seen Mel Brooks do it, and the producers with Springtime for Hitler in Germany and whatnot. There is no single target in society, past, living or future, who is obviously immune to satire.
Listen, whether you like it or not, in their heads, the Nazis would have thought they were pretty funny people.
Yeah, sure they would. Yeah, some people would think.
Yeah, I think they thought that. You know, I wouldn't say that I would think that, John.
Some of the things they get up to, Stephen, certainly some of Hitler's commands and general, playing the general and overseeing different operations, that was pretty funny. He made a complete pig's ear of it and subsequently lost the war as a result. But yeah, in terms of this, Stephen, I really enjoyed the 2 trailers. I enjoyed the ridiculousness and the comedy-heavy elements of the first trailer, and the fact that it was being skewed through the perspective of Jojo Belzer. And I think this is the common theme running through this article as well. It's just the fact that the movie is being skewed through the perspective of this young 10-year-old boy, his perception of the world, his perception of Hitler, and of this, obviously this indoctrination that they were giving young children from a young age. And just the fact that that's going to be represented in the colour palette of the movie as well. The fact that it's going to be very bright and vibrant. The buildings and just everything in general is going to be painted really colourfully, if you like. No other word for it.
No.
And you can see it here.
It's actually see it in some of the photos.
Yeah, it's the set designer they've got, or the production designer, Rav Vincent, is speaking at length with Architectural Digest. And you can see some of the great concept art, what they had in mind from the very get-go. I think all the way back to 2012, it was a common theme running all the way through. Taika's vision for this movie was to really differentiate it from other World War II movies, which are usually quite sombre and grey and earthy in their tones and quite dull. And obviously that's because it's a very sombre time in history for a lot of reasons. People dying en masse, and just it's a war setting. But this movie is very different, as I did say. It's skewed through a young 10-year-old guy's mind, changing perceptions on what he thinks is correct and whatnot, Jews and whatnot. This young girl being discovered, he's initially indoctrinated to hate them. He thinks they're alien, they're different to him. Discovers his mother is obviously harbouring a Jewish girl. And then he starts communicating with her, realising she's a human just like him. There's no difference. And then he becomes a more fulfilled, a more established, I don't know what they say, a more fleshed out human being, if you like. His view in the world changes. And just the fact that it looks incredible, Stephen, the movie, from a whole array of different perspectives. Tonally, the satire, the direction, the performances. As you did say, Sam Rockwell's in there. There's a whole array of characters. Stephen Merchant's in there.
See, unless the director took a leap of his senses in regards to Taika Waititi, I think, John, that you've got to just put your faith in a director at times, especially with his history of work as well. Yeah, his upbringing as well, John. If you read into comedy. Exactly, and obviously
he's Jewish. He's Polynesian Jew.
That's what I was going to say. Just sometimes I think people jump the gun a little, and I think satire is lost in a lot of people as well. As I said, here in the UK, we grew up with the likes of Monty Python, Ruttles, that kind of thing, and obviously the political sort of satire sketches as well. Have I Got News For You, that kind of thing. Not the 9 o'clock news. Spitting Image was a big sort of staple diet in the 1980s, taking the mickey out of the likes of the politics of the day. The royal family weren't, excused either. So we kind of grew up in that type of environment. In Sickness and Health with Alf Garnett, Warren Mitchell as well, who I didn't get. My grandfather, who was a big Labour guy, watched this character who loved the royal family. He was a bigot, and my grandfather thought it was hilarious because he got satire. I was very young at the time and was very confused. Why are you liking this, grandfather? This isn't your type of person. But as you grow up, you end up understanding the sort of ignorances of the characters. In this case, it's obviously the imaginary friend here. And it's just one of those things. I had complete faith in this film from the very first trailer, John. I thought this is going to be an absolute hit. I still believe it is going to be a hit. I think a lot of people are going to be eating their words as well.
Absolutely, Stephen. Look, it's one of the greatest forms of storytelling and just exploring themes, satire, just the way that you can flip a subject, if you like. It could be a very serious and obviously sombre subject like Hitler and obviously the Nazis and what they were doing. You can flip it on its head if you handle it delicately enough, and he certainly has done that. And they say that in the actual article as well, Stephen, not just even about the colour palettes, but the location choices as well, like Uztek, I think they say. And there was another one that have got really rich histories, and the Nazis have left an imprint on these towns with the treatment of Jewish people and just people they deem to be inferior, if you like, to the German race. And it's very deliberate. Everything in this movie is very deliberate. The colour choices, the themes they're exploring, the use of satire, the location choices, it's all steeped in history, and it's great. Everything's been done deliberate by Taika.
You hit the nail on the head there, John, because you get an actor like Scarlett Johansson in there, who's in a very good position in her career at the moment. If she thought in any way this film was going to jeopardise her career for being controversial and very wrong historically, she wouldn't have touched this with a barge pole.
Yeah, Stephen, look, I've not got much more to add other than the fact that I cannot wait for the movie. It's a shame we have to wait longer, but look, good things come to those who wait, and I will get around to watching it because it's one of my most anticipated movies coming out within the next 6 months or so. So yeah. We're
going to move on now, John, to the blog rundown. We've got 4 films actually, 2 combinations here. First one coming in from Stephen Wilkins. It's 2014's Ouija and 2016's Ouija Origin of Evil. Now, first film was directed, John, by Styles White. Second one was directed by Mike Flanagan. So you've got 2 different directors in there for a kick-off. Starred, the first one from 2014 had Olivia Cook, Anna Koto, Darren Kagasov, and the sequel or prequel or whatever it was had Elizabeth Reeser, Lulu Wilson and Annalise Basso.
Yeah, Stephen, I've seen the 2 movies and I have to say I share many of the sentiments of Steve. I'm getting you wrong there. But look, he's right in what he says, that the actual sequel is better than the original movie. I've watched the 2. I thought the Ouija, the first one, I mean, he rates it pretty decently. I rated it not quite as high. Felt it full of lots of horror tropes and stereotypes, lots of jump scares in there, and some really obvious storytelling. Although what I will say is, it does do something quite intelligent in the middle, where it fleshes out the backstory of this original family in the house and whatnot, and then we then get to utilise that going forth into the sequel, and we explore that original family. So that was quite an interesting storytelling technique. I don't know whether they had that in mind originally from the get-go, where they would make this movie, drop in the DZ character, I think it is, who pops up through the seances or the Ouija game, and then they would then deliberately go off and expand this out further in the sequel. But certainly the sequel I enjoyed a lot more. I thought the young girl in it was fantastic. It was a great performance for her. But again, some of the beats, the plot beats were quite similar, where you're going through basements within the house. But that's very deliberate because it's set in the same location, so you can't really get around that. And it was quite funny how it was almost poetry in motion, where you were mimicking what had happened in the past. Not very scary for me, I can't lie, but I've said time and again, I don't get scared very often at horrors, but I do enjoy getting in, because you get that rush
John, I think,
from watching horror movies.
I've not seen any of the 2 films, so I can't really comment too much on how they performed or anything like that. Based on, obviously, Steve's reviews, he does obviously rate the second one slightly higher than the original movie.
I just thought the second one was better in terms of storytelling. I think it was a mad Nazi scientist.
I think it's interesting as well, John. It's one of those things, you know, I'm not a big horror fan to begin with, but especially when the situation, you know, what do you think's going to happen when you start playing around with a Ouija board? You know what I mean? It's too annoying for me.
Ghosts don't exist.
Well,
absolutely nothing will happen.
We can't get down that sort of chain of thought, John. People don't float in space, and Star Wars was going on. But I think it's. To be honest with you, I'm not going to touch these films with a passport, if I'm being honest with you, because it's nothing to do with the review. The review explains the film enough to put me off, which is a good thing, Steve.
But you're right, Stephen. They're good, solid popcorn flicks, and look, it's horror.
Yeah, I'll focus on the popcorn, John. I'm not going to waste my time watching this. I think, to be honest with you,
they're not the worst.
They're retreads as well. If we're being honest, you know, when I read this review, it reminded me of a film from 1987 called The Gate, where they're just asking for trouble, you know, and they get trouble. So I can't really buy into that. That's just my sort of way I handle horror films, if they're forced that way. Whether it's dark, it's scary, it's thunder and lightning. Oh, there's a house with no lights on that nobody lives in, plenty of cobwebs. I'm going to run in there. Give me peace.
That's just a classic trope, so Stephen. That's what we do with horror movies time and again. It follows a similar path. And look, as I did say, they're not the worst movies in the world. There is some decent performances within. And certainly I agree with most of what Steve said. And I said Dave again there. Jesus Christ, I'm having an absolute mare. But look, I wouldn't rate the first one quite as high as Steve did. Second one was pretty decent though for a popcorn flick of a horror movie. And the antagonist and just the way that they expanded out the two movies into this sort of a duology was pretty neat. But Stephen, look, I haven't got much more to add to the two films because it has been a number of years since I've seen them.
Fair enough.
So I think that's probably the cue to then move swiftly onwards. I'm Dave Groga.
Yeah, we will move on, John, to the same genre, and it's a film reviewed by Peter Plumers, and it's called Ateridos. Hope I pronounced that right, and it's directed by Damien Rugna, and it stars the likes of Maximiliano Gion, Norberto Gonzalo, and Elevaro Eneto. I think this is a foreign film. I think it is actually translated to Terrified, John, in English. So now, what I get from this is a bit more sort of taken from sort of more famous horror films, the best bits, and put them in a pot and mix them up, from the likes of The Conjuring and Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, well, Stephen, as I said previously, this is just what you have to do within horror. It's very difficult to do something new and fresh within the horror genre because there is just established tropes within tropes. Yeah. And just try to do something different in the genre. That's why people were so over the moon with... what the hell was it called?
That's why they stopped making westerns.
Yeah, what the hell was it called? The silence one with Emily Blunt and
Quiet Place.
Yeah. That's why people were so over the moon with that movie, because it did something very different.
Bird Box as well.
Bird Box, kind of followed A Quiet Place though. Yeah. But it was cool. It was a cool movie.
It
exploded on Netflix. But yeah, look, this movie sounds very interesting, Stephen. I have to say, I will be giving this one a watch after reading the review. If I can get it on Netflix, that is. I know that Peter watched it, but whether we have a similar catalogue is another thing.
Well, I'll say one thing about Netflix, John. If you are a big fan of horror, Netflix is the right platform to subscribe to.
And it's the correct month to be watching horror, Stephen. We're into the spooky season, if you'd like.
Yeah.
But if he's saying that it's borrowing from The Conjuring and Paranormal Activity, less so Paranormal Activity, because I think after the first one or two movies, I fell away from that. It was utilising found footage, I think. And it just wasn't for me, that sort of a movie. But The Conjuring has been some of my favourite storytelling and horror movie making, if you like, within the last 10 years. And also James Wan's been involved in that. So he's a guy steeped in that, and he's now going on to do producing. But whether it lives up to that, it's got big shoes to fill. But look, I'm very intrigued in what he says about the scene, I think, with the sink. She's hearing voices from the sink. I did laugh when he says that he thought this was very ominous for the movie. That it was going down a rabbit hole, and they thought it was going to be another absurd film such as Deep Dark, but then it redeemed itself, if you like, with what transpired afterwards. But I digress, I'm going off on a tangent. What he says about the sounds of flesh and bones crunching, That sounds very intriguing. He does go on to say at the end that it will leave you terrified, that you will be scared to look under your bed. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about that, Stephen. I do have a divan bed. There is a platform. Nothing is living within my bed. And as I did say previously, ghosts don't exist anyway, so thankfully I've got nothing to worry about. But look, I'm intrigued. He says it's borrowing from a whole host of classic horror movies, most of which I have enjoyed, so I will be giving this one a bash.
I think out of interest, John, and obviously, you know, if you're into those type of films from the genre, then it's something that might interest you enough to check it out to see how it performs. But there's nothing wrong with borrowing from other films the best bits. I don't mind that at all.
Look at Joker.
Yeah, if it's
heavily
done
borrowed from the King of Comedy.
You know, some people see that as a negative, John. I don't. But listen, sometimes there's only so many stories you can tell. That's
Steve, as long as it's offering a fresh take on this pre-seen vision, if you like.
Exactly, John.
And it's getting very good reviews.
I'll tell you something else as well. From our perspective as well, foreign horror films seem to do better, and they seem to do it better for some reason as well. You know, I don't know what it is, but some of the best horror films I've seen have been foreign made. But this is one, like you, if it's on Netflix, I'll check it out, because if it's got all those sort of elements in it, then there's going to be some degree of quality in there, and maybe some unexpected turns as well.
Absolutely disturbing poster as well, Stephen.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It kind of reminded me of Supreme Leader Snoke a little. But,
after he'd been halved in two by Kyle Ren, yes.
he's half
half
vertically,
right down the middle.
Yeah,
look, not much more to add, sadly, because I haven't seen it. I feel like this is a recurring theme with Peter, sadly, because I've not seen the movies. But there will be a point where I will have some time, and I'll be able to get my hands on it.
John, this is the beauty of having the blog rundown. It does obviously
opens up
enlighten
the
us as well.
Yes, for us to watch movies which perhaps we wouldn't have seen. And Peter does say that wonderfully in his review. He would never have seen this movie if he didn't happen upon it. And I think the horror section in Netflix would have obviously recommended it to him.
Exactly, John. But we'll move on to our final review coming in from DM Anderson. That's Dave, by the way. And this film is called Light of My Life from 2019 by Casey Affleck, who wrote and directed this film, John. And it stars Anna Panowski. Casey Affleck is obviously starring this as well. He's a very talented boy. And Tom Boer.
Yeah, he is a very talented boy, Stephen, but I have to say he is a bit Marmite, if you like. It's just something about him, and Dave does say it in his review, he's just a bit of a doorface.
Yeah.
He's a man of very few words. So it's a guy, sadly, I'm going to admit, I don't watch a lot of his movies because
he's not bad at what he does.
He's not bad, he's an absolutely magnificent actor. I'm going to get that out off my chest right away. I'm not doing him down. Wonderful actor. What he did in Manchester by the Sea was phenomenal, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
It's the role that only a role that he could have did. It's much like I keep getting back to Joker, but Todd Phillips wrote this role specifically for Joaquin Phoenix because he knows he can do that type of role justice. He's got it within him. Casey Affleck has it within him to do these type of roles, these dark, sort of introspective roles where you're looking deep into the recesses of humanity, if you like. And what I did find interesting, I've not seen the movie, but is that Dave says it's very much like, I think, The Road, he says. The Road. I've read the book, I've not seen the movie. I wasn't even aware there was a movie, but having looked, I think it's Viggo Mortensen, I may be wrong, who stars in that movie, may be wrong. But that was a wonderful book. And again, it was almost like, I think it was The Last of Us, was the PlayStation game. This post-apocalyptic setting, you have the father figure and the child figure journeying off, and it's protecting them, and it's just wonderful, the story in that. So if it's anything like that, then perhaps I will have to go and give it a watch.
It's obviously heavy. I know it's obviously post-apocalyptic. I think where most females have been wiped out. So that's something vision. I've not experienced in a film before. So it's going to be obviously heavy drama. There's going to be a lot of isolated scenes between the father and the daughter. Who I just picked up on the review where he actually disguises his daughter as a boy for her own safety. I can understand
and
that.
Says to you that was like Waterworld. Kevin Costner movie,
where
there was a young child disguised as a boy.
Right, okay.
No other connection at all. I'm havering, as we do.
But as a film that intrigues me, John, I'm like you, you know, Casey Affleck is very good at what he does, but I can only take him in small portions. But I've not, at Manchester by Sea, I've not seen that. It came out in 2016, I think.
Yeah,
I've not seen that
then.
film, round about, I think, the end of the year.
We just started doing NBA.
Yeah, I think Kevin reviewed that.
He did,
actually. And I think it may have been his review that actually drew me to watch the film. So I've not seen anything, I don't think, since then from Casey Affleck. So it might be about time I check in on this one, because this one does certainly intrigue me. I like the whole, I like that setting, you know, post-apocalyptic. It's always something that's intrigued me from probably Mad Max days.
Yeah.
So it's something that intrigues me anyway, but I'm very much interested to see how the relationship between the father and the daughter plays out here, because obviously he's obviously, you know, the role model and who the woman she's going to turn out to be as well, John, which is obviously important for a young girl. But to be fair to Dave's review, he does say the film was well made, John. It's nothing to do with Casey Affleck.
Yes, Stephen, look, the final thing, a couple of things I would say is that he's absolutely right in what he says about Affleck's typical laconic. I want to say it's laconic. Laconic. Maybe doing that wrong. It's not a word I use a lot, but he is bang on in what he says. A man of few words. And as I did say previously, he's just got that thing about him. He's just something about him. I actually didn't realise, looking through his filmography, that he was in Interstellar. I think he played McConaughey's older son later on in that movie. So there's one for the books. I didn't realise he was in there. But look, Dave is damning in his praise for this movie, I think, would be fair to say. He enjoys, I think, what's going on in the story, this post-apocalyptic world, and this concept, this different concept of a young father with his younger daughter, and obviously it's a world with no females, so she's very much treasured in this world, and he's protecting her, and it's just, it is like the road, it really is like the road. I'm trying to find the word he says, but it's essentially a take on languid, where it's the storytelling's quite languid, I think he says. But look, all in all, yeah, is it languorous? Yes, languorous, wonderful word, as ever from Dave. But look, I'm intrigued by the movie. Yeah. I do enjoy Affleck when I do get round to watching him. I just find him quite an abrasively do-or-get, essentially. And the fact that he has went to the bother of directing and doing double duty, performing in the movie as well, maybe enough for me to go give it a watch. And the fact there's connotations with the road as well, which I read, and now I'm going to have to go and watch that movie as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave, for letting me know that exists. That may draw me in, and I've got not much more to add because I'm just going down a rabbit hole, which I do all the time, and my voice is starting to go. So I will end on that note. What the hell did you guys make of the blog rundown this week? What did you make of the stories, the articles we spoke about? Obviously, Parasite, is this a movie you've seen? Do you think it is the movie of the year? Will it get some light shone upon it from the Academy, the Oscars, if you'd like? What do you make of Jojo Rabbit? Is it a movie you are completely affronted by? Do you think it's horrendous and horrific that they are painting Adolf Hitler or Adolf in a jovial manner? What do you make of the colourful, vibrant part? Let us know down below in that comment section what your thoughts are on all of the show as an all-encompassing whole. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content, and me and Stephen will be back tomorrow with The Force Friday.